Who wants to read this one?
Ian, you got this.
Yeah, let me see. There's a glare on the screen, so I got this. Panic is starting to set in. I too much for Democrats. It's just not.
It's not just Nevada. In
You got
multiple key states, Democrats are not hitting the early vote plus VBM numbers they need to counteract an election day red wave. John Rouse from Election Wizard. John Ralston says, for those wondering, I just confirmed that there is no backlog of mail waiting to be processed. This is not a good scenario at all for Dems, unless USPS not processing fast enough. No massive Clark mails in 2020. As I have said, this is an apple. Other cycles are oranges. So basically, they're hoping there was a big stack of mail-in ballots that are going to get jammed up. That would be good news for Dems. It ain't there. So this might actually end that night very decisively.
You know, one of the things Americans have always been great at, in my opinion, is being real. Like, this country came from hard times. And when you see someone like Joe Biden just flubbing things, your spirit cannot deny it. It's too hard to pretend like that's okay for a long time. And that gives me hope. Unfortunately, it's like you got to be demoralized to the place where you give up on the American dream. But it was a nightmare to begin with. You know, it was all
American dream.
Yeah, it was all based on conquest and like OPEC dollar, forcing people to use our dollars.
Well, that's
capitalizing off the back of the destruction of Europe and World War II.
The American dream is something very different.
It's basically that with a single job, you can buy a house, get a car, raise two kids.
Some chickens.
Yeah.
No, it isn't.
That's the American dream.
No, it isn't.
One person from nothing can come up and have a life like a car,
American
a house,
dream
and kids.
is upward mobility.
Yeah.
And then what happens is you get a bunch of these communist college students who think it means you can literally not work and just be rich. The American dream was that you could move to America as a Chinese immigrant, move your family into a studio apartment, and then work 80 hours a week until you finally put your kids in college. And then they get jobs making $50,000 a year and don't have to go through what you did. Then they can have cell phones in their own apartment. That was the American dream. And then all of a sudden, these communists come out and they're like, the American dream is dead. Since when was the American dream that you're born to an upper class family, go to college, and then get a mid-range six-figure job at a tech firm? These are people who get jobs at like Vice and do literally no work all day. Don't even show up half the time, and they're like, the American dream is dead. There's a video. Did you see the viral video of that TikToker?
On Twitter.
On Twitter, the Starbucks?
Yeah. She no.
I had to work 8 hours on Saturday. It's like, oh man, it's a TikToker working at Starbucks crying, saying we need a union because they schedule me to work 8 hours on Saturday and Sunday, and it's wrong and it's not fair. The American dream was that you got to work 16 hours a day. And you got to make enough money to eventually put your kids in a better situation. That was the American dream.
Yeah, the immigration story is the story of my family. You know, my dad had to sacrifice a lot, risk a lot. And
fleeing the Soviet Union.
Yeah, I mean, working for essentially slave labor off the books to try to, of course, bring me over to the United States and give me opportunity. And I know I have a lot of opportunities here that I wouldn't have in Poland. I got to take advantage of it. Yeah. I got to make sure that I'm on my A game. I got to make sure I got to work hard because at the end of the day, no one's going to give you anything. And that's a lesson that a lot of these people need to learn immediately.
Here's the American dream. That Luke's family Poland was a Soviet satellite. It wasn't officially Soviet Union. Is that it?
Yeah.
So your family flees this hardship to come to America. And 30 years later, or 20 some odd years later, their son, having his father having sacrificed all of this, his son appears in a Times Square billboard ad a couple times. That's the American dream.
Well,
I don't know. You know, in all seriousness, Luke, do you think your dad ever expected that the life he would give you would lead to something so tremendous?
He made sure to make me aware of it when I was growing up. He was like, I almost died coming here a number of times, so you better make something out of yourself, because if you don't, no one else will. No one's going to give you anything here. You got to work hard for it. And
was he like, why are you chasing around these people with a camera?
Yeah. Like he was like, go to college, become a doctor or a lawyer. I'm like, I hate all of these people, and college is a scam, and the whole economy is gonna fail. And then this was right before 2008. I remember that car ride I'd go into school. I was like, I'll do it for them. Because otherwise, I wish I would have never gone to school, but I did it for them.
Same.
I got my little piece of paper. I gave it to them as soon as I graduated. I'm like, here you go. This is pointless. I wasted a lot of money. I wasted my time. I made sure I took no money from them. I worked a full-time job doing that. But this is the kind of ethic that they teach you. You got to work for it. You can't take out loans. You can't borrow money that you don't have. You have to earn it. You have to work for it. And that's something that I see a lot of people missing. People don't have that. People don't have that hunger, or that, people always said, like, hey, they went to journalism school. And I remember being there with them. They're like, yeah, we got to wait 4 years. We're going to go through all the lessons and we're going to go out there and maybe interview some politicians. I said, screw you. I'm stealing a press credential, finding out how you guys do it, making it on my own, facing the mayor off next week. And I did. And the mayor ended up calling the school, getting me in trouble. But that's a different story. But I went out there. I was hungry. I hated these politicians who were lying to the people. No journalist was asking them any legitimate questions. And I was like, I have to do it because no one else is doing it. This is my opportunity to finally fill a void in society that could help them. And that's when I went on my spree, confronting all the politicians all throughout the United States.
There's two American dreams in this story. Your mom and your dad fleeing a hardship to give you a better life, and you coming from a family that had to flee and then making a better life for yourself through hard work. That's the American dream. Well, it exists. It's waiting right there for you.
It was coined by James Truslow Adams in 1931, American Dream, and his quote, "Life should be better and richer and fuller for everyone with opportunity for each according to ability or achievement." I agree with the sentiment. The reality is the Federal Reserve is deciding who gets the money. And if you were born into poverty, you don't have any money. So the dream is like, were you born into wealth?
Did you listen to a word we just said?
Yeah, the upward mobility, like free speech allows for people to create great work. But unless you play the game, the fascist game, you're not.
What game is Luke? Is Luke getting Federal Reserve money?
He's paying taxes. He's supporting the war in Iraq by paying taxes.
Oh, come on.
It's not personal, but we've all been part of this.
There's very few people in the world who have done more combating the false narratives of the war in Iraq than Luke.
Dude, Luke is a golden god. Let me just get that on the table.
Look at this guy.
A little exaggeration there, But
my point is, there's a lot of bad things. We fight against them. But the reality is in the United States, which is very different from many other countries on this planet, you can be dirt poor and work hard and succeed. And there's one factor. They found this is scientifically proven: perseverance.
Yeah. Well,
you can be rich and fail. And you read these studies. They're very fascinating. There was a TED Talk I watched where they said they went to kids who were born to multimillionaire families, to billionaire families, and these kids were failing. Hunter Biden, look at him. How about that? And they say, what was causing them to struggle and fail so often? Now, of course, with rich families, they're never homeless. But the dude's teeth right out of his face. His laptop is full of all this just destruction and chaos. Total failure. There was one factor. No matter how rich you are, no matter how smart you are, no matter how strong you are, perseverance was the one factor in success.
Yeah. And Miles, I think you also take life by the balls as well. You've taken advantage of some crazy situations, traveled everywhere. What's the craziest place you traveled to?
Well, apart from the Timcast studio, I would honestly say many places in Afghanistan, and those people there work very hard as well. And they've got the same issue they do in America, because in America, you pay for an expensive degree, and you can't get a job afterwards, basically, even if it's sometimes a good degree. In Afghanistan, they actually get free and very heavily subsidized degrees as well. So these people have pharmacy jobs, and they're actually just working on the street selling bananas. So they have the same issues, I think, at the end of the day. And that's why I think Afghanistan's crazy. It's basically a failed US state, because that's what it was for 20 years. That's what they did. They made it a puppet state. And then now you're seeing it all crumble down.
You would need 100 years of social engineering to actually succeed with this nation building stuff. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous concept.
This would be controversial. If you really want to nation build, you cannot have the population survive, because at the end of the day, these people are not going to give up their religion and their beliefs, and they're very solid, and they're completely different from Western beliefs. You see that in Europe as well. You see all these people coming across illegally, and they just don't integrate. They just don't get on. And with Afghanistan, it just made them a bit more radical.
Yeah, this is why you need 100 years. You need to erase previous generations. You need to have the kids who are growing up be brought up in a culture that is westernized American. And then when they grow up, you have to keep separating the younger generations from the older generations, so that 100 years can go by and they can completely have erased their culture and traditions. It's the only way you'd be able to do it.
Tough to do because Afghanistan's desert. So you got like the greater things about the United States that makes it us able to live like this with huge cities is the imports of grain and corn and stuff like that. Yeah. Afghanistan has none of that.
Yeah, Afghanistan's technically not even a country at the end of the day. Before the British invaded, it was just an enclave of several states surrounded by mountains, and you would have a village here, and then they wouldn't contact the other village on the other side of the mountain. And it was a bunch of tribes infighting. But when they were pressured by the Russian Empire and the British Empire, they basically came together and said, one struggle, and fought every single person.
You know, with the American dream conversation, like there is room for upward mobility. I agree with that. But I think this what is this guy's name again that created the term? Anyway, the guy that created the term, it's 1931. It sounds like Federal Reserve propaganda. If you work hard, you can make it. They just want a bunch of slave workers. Like, hard work doesn't get you anywhere if you do it every day at McDonald's. You got to work smart.
That's true. Not true. I disagree with you.
You will be working for $14 an hour until you're 60.
It's about learning service. You can learn by working at McDonald's how customers work, what people are buying, when they're buying it. You could meet like-minded individuals. You could make connections there. You could learn how businesses are run. You could learn customer management. You could learn so much about why McDonald's is successful, and you could take what you learn from being inside of that company, learning their secrets, and implement it in your own business.
That's working smart.
Didn't the CEO of UPS start as like a loader of a truck or something?
I think so, yeah. And there's a lot of those stories.
But how many people can do this, though? How many people could be entrepreneurs? How many people could start their own business or do their own little independent side hustle?
Probably
They
1/13,000th of the
scientifically,
population.
all that matters is perseverance.
Yes.
As long as you remain convicted to your goals, you succeed.
I don't see. I see a lot of people trying.
Bro,
on
it's
YouTube.
there's like. Okay, I read tons of scientific studies where they tracked decades of people.
But unless you're smart,
just look it up.
Unless you're smart, you will continue to repeat the same problem that's keeping you in the position.
Ian, a little bit of smart, but hungry. Perseverance and wanting it really bad. That's the key right there that a lot of people are missing, and they give up because their mental mind state is that they're going to be unsuccessful.
You got to be smart to succeed in the United States.
You got to be hungry.
To come from no money and to make money, you got to be smart.
Not true.
But how can you be hungry when you've got loads of fast food be given to you and everything's being handed someone a silver platter? You're not starving, but at the same time, you're staying afloat, and that's keeping people complacent.
At the end of the day, it's a choice, and that choice is go to McDonald's, go get some beef liver, go get some vegetables. They're a lot cheaper, but it's all about where you decide to take your time. And I think the one thing that is standing in the way is taxes, regulations, and rules and licenses that do prevent a lot of people from starting their own businesses, from being able to commence commerce. Where in the United States, you have police officers shutting down lemonade stands. If we should be doing one thing, is teaching people positive mindsets, and at the same time getting government out of the way so people could fix our problems financially through just pure real capitalism.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.